Captain Jinho Park stood at the massive window of his transport ship, watching the enormous space station grow larger ahead of them. Nexus Prime was the biggest thing humans had ever seen in space. It was like a metal city floating among the stars, with towers and rings that spun slowly in the darkness. "Sir, we will dock in 10 minutes, said Lieutenant Hana Kim from behind him. She was checking her tablet for the meeting details. "The council meeting starts in 1 hour. Jinho nodded but kept looking at the station. He had been to many places as Earth's top diplomat, but nothing like this. Nexus Prime was home to the Galactic Council, the group that ruled most of the galaxy. Today they had called Earth to an important meeting. Jinho did not know why, but he had a bad feeling about it. The docking went smoothly. As soon as their ship connected to the station, alien guards surrounded them. These guards were tall and had gray skin with 4 arms each. They did not speak to the humans, just pointed toward a long hallway. Jinho and Hana walked through corridors filled with strange aliens. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had shapes that humans had never seen before. All of them stared at the 2 humans as they passed. Some made sounds that might have been laughing. The main council hall was huge. It had seats for thousands of beings, arranged in circles around a central platform. Most of the seats were filled with different alien species. At the center sat Chancellor Krex, the leader of the Vorthak people. He was twice the size of a human, with dark blue skin and 6 eyes that all focused on Jinho as he entered. "Humans," Chancellor Krex said in a deep voice that echoed through the hall. "You have finally arrived." Jinho walked to the small area marked for Earth's representatives. There were only 2 chairs, while other species had dozens. The message was clear. Humans were not important here. "Thank you for inviting us, Chancellor," Jinho said politely. "Earth is always happy to work with the Council." Several aliens made hissing sounds. Others clicked their teeth or claws. Chancellor Krex raised one of his large hands for silence. "Work with us?" the Chancellor repeated. "That is an interesting choice of words. You see, humans, we did not call you here to work together. We called you here to give you new orders." Hana shifted in her seat next to Jinho. He could feel her tension, but he kept his face calm. "Orders, Chancellor?" "I am not sure I understand." Chancellor Krex stood up from his throne. He was even bigger standing, nearly 3 meters tall. "Let me make this simple for your small human brain. For 3,000 years, the Council has brought order to this galaxy. We decide which species get to explore space. We decide who gets to trade. We decide who lives and who dies." The Chancellor walked closer to where Jinho sat. "When your people first discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, we allowed you to join our galaxy. We could have destroyed you then, but we were generous. Now it is time for you to pay for that generosity." Jinho felt his heart beating faster, but he kept his voice steady. "What kind of payment does the Council require?" Chancellor Krex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 500,000 tons of refined metals from your mining worlds. 50,000 humans to work in our labor camps, and 3 of your colony planets will become Council territory. The hall erupted in sounds from different alien species. Some were cheering, others were making noises that sounded like applause. A few aliens near the human section were pointing and making what seemed like jokes. "And if Earth refuses these terms?" Jinho asked, the Chancellor's 6 eyes all focused on him. "Then we will take what we want by force. Your species has 27 ships that you call a fleet. We have over 10,000 ships from 47 different species. Do you really want to fight us?" Hana started to say something, but Jinho touched her arm to stop her. He stood up slowly and looked around the massive hall. Thousands of alien eyes were watching him, waiting to see if the human would beg or cry. "Chancellor Krex," Jinho said in a clear voice, "this is a very serious request. I need to discuss it with my government on Earth. How much time do we have to consider your offer?" "Offer?" Chancellor Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "This is not an offer, human. This is a demand. But I am feeling generous today. You have 30 standard days to agree, not 1 day more." Jinho bowed slightly. "Thank you for your generosity, Chancellor. Earth will give you our answer within 30 days. As Jinho and Hana started to leave, aliens throughout the hall began making loud noises again. Jinho could hear them talking about humans in languages he did not understand, but their tone was clear. They thought humans were weak and stupid. Near the exit, a group of reptilian aliens blocked their path. The largest one spoke in broken Earth language. 30 days, little humans. Then you become our slaves just like you should be. Another alien, this one covered in fur, added, "Your ships are toys. Your weapons are jokes. We will break you like we broke the others." Jinho and Hana walked past them without responding. They made their way back through the station corridors, past more staring aliens and more cruel sounds. When they finally reached their ship, Hana closed the door and leaned against it. "Sir," she said quietly, "they want to enslave humanity." Jinho sat down at the control panel and began preparing for departure. "Yes, they do. And they think it will be easy. What do we do now?" Jinho looked out the window one more time at Nexus Prime. The huge station looked powerful and threatening, like a metal monster floating in space. But he knew something the aliens did not know. Something that would change everything. "Now," he said as their ship pulled away from the docking bay, "we go home and show them what humans are really capable of." As their transport ship jumped to faster than light speed, heading back to Earth, Jinho began composing his report. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with a weak, young species that would bow down to their demands. They had no idea what they had just started. Behind them on Nexus Prime, Chancellor Krex was already planning how to divide up human territory among his allies. In 30 days, he thought, the humans would surrender, and another species would join the long list of those conquered by the Council. He could not have been more wrong. The emergency meeting room in Earth's capital was full of the most important people in human space. Admiral Kyung Lee sat at the head of the long table, her face serious as she listened to Captain Jinho Park's report. Around the table sat generals, scientists, and politicians who would decide humanity's fate. President Wu Han leaned forward in his chair. "So they want us to give them 500,000 tons of metal, 50,000 of our people, and 3 entire planets?" "Yes, Mr. President," Jinho answered. "And if we refuse, they will attack us with 10,000 ships." The room was quiet for a moment. Then General Tae Shin slammed his hand on the table. "This is outrageous. They think they can just walk in here and demand we become their slaves." "General," Admiral Lee said calmly, "we knew this day would come. The question is, are we ready?" Dr. Mira Song, the head of Earth's Secret Intelligence Division, stood up and activated a holographic display. The room filled with images of alien ships, stations, and weapons. "For 15 years we have been watching and learning. The Council thinks we are weak because we only show them our civilian ships and basic technology." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show human military facilities hidden throughout the solar system. "What they do not know is that we have been preparing for this exact situation since first contact." President Wu Han's eyes widened. "Dr. Song, what exactly have you been preparing?" Dr. Song smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Everything, Mr. President. Project Silent Thunder has been building a new type of warship for the past 10 years. Ships that cannot be detected by any known alien technology." Colonel Tae Shin stood up and took control of the display. "Allow me to show you what we have been working on." The hologram changed to show a sleek black ship unlike anything the Council had ever seen. "This is the Ghost-class destroyer. We have built 200 of them in secret shipyards behind Jupiter." Admiral Daewon, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "The Ghost fleet is just the beginning. Each ship is controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. They can think and react faster than any living pilot." Jinho stared at the display in amazement. "How did you hide all of this from the aliens?" "Simple," Dr. Song answered. "We made them think we were stupid. Every time their scouts came to Earth, we showed them our oldest ships and weakest weapons. Meanwhile, our real military was being built in places they never thought to look." The display changed again to show a massive construction project near the sun. President Wu Han gasped. "What is that?" Dr. Song's smile grew wider. "That, Mr. President, is Project Solar Lance. We have been modifying our sun with quantum field generators. When activated, it can focus solar energy into a beam capable of destroying entire fleets." "You turned our sun into a weapon?" Lieutenant Hana Kim asked in shock. "Engineer Nari Choi has spent 5 years making sure it will work perfectly." Colonel Tae Shin answered. "The aliens think the sun is just a star. They have no idea it is now the most powerful weapon in the galaxy." Admiral Lee stood up and walked to the display. "Show them the fleet numbers." The hologram changed to show star charts with thousands of small dots scattered throughout human space. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Lee said, "the Council thinks we have 27 ships. In reality, We have over 3,000 vessels hidden in asteroid fields, behind moons, and in space stations that look like civilian facilities. General Kyung pointed to different areas on the map. Each ship is equipped with quantum cannons, stealth technology, and jump drives that can move them instantly across the battlefield. The aliens still use slow, predictable weapons from 1,000 years ago. President Wuhan sat back in his chair, overwhelmed. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we learned the Council existed, Admiral Lee answered. We studied every species they conquered. We learned from their mistakes. And we decided that humanity would never bow to tyrants. Dr. Mirasong brought up files on the table screens. The Council has a pattern. They find a new species, demand tribute, and if the species refuses, they destroy them. Over 3,000 years, they have conquered or destroyed hundreds of civilizations. But they always follow the same strategy, Colonel Tae-shin added. They bring overwhelming numbers to scare their enemies into surrendering. They expect quick victories against terrified opponents. Admiral Dae-won smiled grimly. What they do not expect is an enemy that has been studying them for 15 years. An enemy that knows their weaknesses and has built weapons specifically to exploit them. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed what they had learned. Finally, President Wuhan spoke. So what you are telling me is that instead of the helpless young species the Council thinks we are, humanity has one of the most advanced militaries in the galaxy? That is exactly what we are telling you, sir, Admiral Lee confirmed. Jinho shook his head in amazement. The Council has no idea what they have started. No, they do not, Dr. Song agreed. They see our small diplomatic ships and think we are primitives. They see our peaceful colonies and think we are weak. They have no idea that every human colony has hidden weapons platforms, that every civilian ship can be converted to military use in hours, and that our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Lieutenant Hana Kim looked at the star charts showing human military positions. So what happens now? Admiral Lee walked back to her seat. Now we wait. In 25 days, the Council will send their grand fleet to collect their tribute. They will expect to find a frightened species ready to surrender. Instead, Colonel Tae-shin said with a dangerous smile, they will find something they have never encountered before, an enemy that is not afraid of them. President Wuhan stood up. Admiral Lee, I am giving you full authority to use whatever force is necessary to protect humanity. The Council wanted payment from us. Admiral Lee nodded. Yes, Mr. President. And we will give them exactly what they deserve. As the meeting ended, people began filing out of the room to prepare for war. Throughout human space, secret military bases came online. Hidden weapons were charged. Ghost ships powered up their engines. And deep in the solar system, engineer Nari Choi ran final tests on the solar lance. The Galactic Council thought they were about to collect tribute from a weak species. They had no idea they were walking into a trap that had been 15 years in the making. In 25 days, they would learn that humanity had been studying them just as carefully as they had been studying humanity. The difference was that humans had learned much better lessons. The galaxy was about to change forever, and the Council had only themselves to blame for starting a war they could never win. 28 days had passed since the Council's ultimatum. Captain Hyun-jo floated in the bridge of his stealth ship, watching the biggest fleet in galactic history gather at the edge of human space. From his hiding spot in an asteroid field, he could see thousands of alien vessels preparing for what they thought would be an easy victory. Command, this is Shadow's Edge, he whispered into his communication device. The aliens are here, counting 11,400 ships from 47 different species. On Earth, Admiral Kyung Lee received the report in the underground command center. Around her, dozens of officers watched displays showing the approaching alien fleet. Thank you, Captain Joe. Stay hidden and keep watching. She turned to President Wuhan, who had come to observe the battle. Mr. President, they brought even more ships than we expected. They really want to make sure we understand how powerless they think we are. Are our people ready? The President asked. Admiral Lee looked at the status boards showing human forces throughout the solar system. Green lights confirmed that every ship, every weapon, and every soldier was prepared. Yes, sir. Everyone is in position. Far from Earth, Chancellor Kreck stood on the bridge of his massive command ship, the Eternal Dominion. It was the size of a small moon and carried enough weapons to destroy planets. Around him, alien commanders from dozens of species reported their readiness. Chancellor, said War Leader Vex of the Razor Teeth Clan, Our scouts confirm that the humans have only 27 ships in their entire fleet. They are gathered around their home planet like frightened children. Chancellor Krex's 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Perfect. Today the galaxy will see what happens to species that dare to refuse the Council's demands. What the aliens did not know was that the 27 ships they had detected were decoys, empty vessels broadcasting false signals to make the alien scouts think they had found humanity's entire military. On the hidden human dreadnought Indomitable, Admiral Sung Kang watched the alien fleet approach. His ship was invisible to their sensors, floating in empty space with 19 other massive warships that the Council had no idea existed. "Ships report ready," his communications officer announced. Admiral Kang activated his connection to Earth Command. "Admiral Lee, this is Admiral Kang. The Ghost Fleet is in position. The solar lance is charged. All stealth units report ready." "Understood," Admiral Lee replied. "Wait for my signal." The alien fleet reached the outer edge of human space and stopped. Chancellor Krex opened a communication channel that reached every human settlement in the solar system. "Humans," his voice boomed across space, "your 30 days are over. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Continue to resist and we will destroy every human world." The response came from Admiral Lee aboard the visible human flagship. "Chancellor Krex, this is Admiral Kyung Lee of the Earth Defense Force. You asked for payment from humanity." "Yes," Chancellor Krex replied with amusement. "Are you finally ready to give us what we demand?" "We are," Admiral Lee said calmly. "But I do not think you will like the currency we deal in." Before Chancellor Krex could respond, space around his fleet suddenly filled with new contacts. 20 massive human dreadnoughts decloaked directly in the middle of the alien formation. Ships larger and more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen appeared from nowhere. "Impossible," shouted War Leader Vex. "Where did those ships come from?" But the surprise was just beginning. Commander Somi Yoon activated the Ghost Fleet from her control station on Earth. Suddenly, nearly 1,000 automated warships appeared throughout the alien formation. Ships that moved with perfect coordination, controlled by artificial intelligence that could react faster than any living being. The alien commanders panicked. Their formation fell apart as they tried to understand what was happening. Ships that should not exist were everywhere, surrounding them, targeting them with weapons they had never seen before. "All units, attack!" Chancellor Krex screamed. "Destroy the humans!" The aliens opened fire with their traditional energy weapons and missile systems, but the human ships moved like nothing they had ever encountered. The Ghost Fleet ships dodged and weaved through alien fire with impossible speed, while the human dreadnoughts' shields absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Then the humans fired back. The first human quantum cannon shot tore through 3 alien ships like they were made of paper. The weapons used principles of physics that the Council had never discovered, focusing energy in ways that made their shields useless. Captain Hyun-jo watched from his hiding place as the alien fleet, which had seemed so powerful just moments before, began falling apart. Human ships appeared and disappeared throughout the battle, using jump drive technology to strike and vanish before the aliens could respond. But the real shock came when engineer Nari Choi activated the solar lance Earth-Sun, modified with quantum field generators, suddenly focused a beam of pure stellar energy toward the alien fleet. The beam was invisible until it struck, and when it did, an entire section of alien ships simply vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, completely erased from existence. "By the ancient gods," whispered an alien commander on one of the surviving ships. They turned their star into a weapon. Admiral Young Bae led the second wave of human ships into battle. These vessels used advanced jump drives to appear behind enemy formations, fire devastating salvos, and disappear before return fire could reach them. The aliens, used to slow, predictable battles, could not adapt to humanity's lightning warfare. On Nexus Prime, thousands of light years away, alien leaders watched the battle reports in horror. The species they had dismissed as primitive was systematically destroying the most powerful fleet in galactic history. "How is this possible?" demanded one council member. "Our intelligence said they were weak." "Our intelligence was wrong," replied another. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for 15 years. Back at the battle, Chancellor Krex watched his mighty fleet burn around him. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were being destroyed by enemies that should not exist. His 6 eyes focused on the human command ship that had started this nightmare. "Admiral Lee," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We can negotiate. The Council is willing to discuss new terms." Admiral Lee's response was broadcast to every alien ship in the battle zone. "Chancellor, you came here to collect tribute by force. You threatened to enslave our people and steal our worlds. You showed us what the Council really is. Tyrants who rule through fear." The human attacks continued as she spoke. More alien ships exploded or simply disappeared under the focused power of human weapons. "Now you see what humanity really is," Admiral Lee continued. "We are not the weak species you thought we were. We are something the galaxy has never seen before. A people who prepared for this day from the moment we learned you existed. The battle was not even close. In 6 hours, the aliens lost over 7,000 ships. The humans lost 12. The survivors of the once mighty Council fleet fled in terror, carrying word of humanity's true power to every corner of the galaxy. As the last alien ships jumped away, Admiral Lee stood on her bridge looking at the debris field that had once been the Council's Grand Armada. The beings who had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years had just learned that their reign was over. The payment they had demanded from humanity was complete. But instead of tribute, they had received something else entirely. A demonstration that the age of the Council was ending, and the age of humanity was about to begin. The surviving alien ships that escaped the battle spread panic throughout the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, species that had served the Council for centuries received impossible reports. The humans, the weak, primitive humans, had destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Krex paced back and forth in the emergency council chamber. His 6 eyes were wild with rage and fear. Half of his body was covered in bandages from when his flagship had been hit by human weapons before he escaped. "This cannot be happening," he growled to the assembled alien leaders. "No species has ever defeated the Council, no one." War Commander Volthak of the Iron Claw Empire slammed his metal fist on the table. "Then we build a bigger fleet. We call in every ship from every member world. We crush these humans once and for all." Other alien leaders nodded in agreement, but their fear was obvious. They had all seen the battle reports. They had all watched ships from their own fleets vanish under human weapons that seemed to come from another universe entirely. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Aaron Yu was analyzing the results of the battle in the Strategic Command Center. The data showed something that made even the scientists pause in amazement. "Admiral Lee," Dr. Yu called out, "you need to see this. We have been monitoring alien communications across the galaxy. 17 Council member species have declared independence in the past 12 hours. Admiral Lee looked up from the battle reports she was reviewing. "Independence?" "Yes, ma'am. The destruction of the Council fleet has inspired rebellions on worlds that have been enslaved for thousands of years. The Zephyrian Mining Collective has overthrown their Council overseers. The Kelton Agricultural Union has expelled all alien administrators. Even the Vorth homeworld is seeing riots." President Wu Han, who had remained in the command center since the battle began, shook his head in wonder. "One battle, and we have started a galactic revolution." "It was not just one battle, Mr. President," Admiral Lee replied. "It was 3,000 years of anger finally finding hope." But the war was not over. On the other side of the galaxy, War Commander Volthak was assembling the largest military force in galactic history. Unlike Chancellor Krex, Volthak understood that the humans were no longer the same species the Council had first met. This time he would not underestimate them. "Send word to every Council loyalist," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them that any species that does not send ships to destroy the humans will be marked as traitors. We will burn their worlds to ash." The threat worked. Fear of the Council's revenge drove many species to contribute ships to Volthak's new fleet. Within days, he had assembled 15,000 vessels from across the galaxy. Captain Hyun Jo, still hidden in his stealth ship, watched the new alien fleet gather near a massive space station in the Helix Nebula. "Command," he reported, "the aliens are building another fleet. This one is even bigger than the first." Admiral Lee was not surprised. "How many ships, Captain?" 15,000, Admiral. "And they are being more careful this time. They have scouts everywhere trying to detect our stealth ships." "Understood. Continue monitoring and stay hidden." Admiral Lee turned to her staff officers. "Gentlemen, it seems the Council has not learned their lesson. They think that bringing more ships will change the outcome." Colonel Tae Shin smiled grimly. Should we show them how wrong they are? Not yet, Admiral Lee decided. Let them think they have time to prepare. Meanwhile, we will prepare something special for them. What the aliens did not know was that humanity had been holding back during the first battle. The Ghost Fleet, the Solar Lance, and the Stealth Dreadnoughts were impressive, but they were not humanity's most advanced weapons. Deep in a hidden facility on the moon, engineer Nari Choi was putting the finishing touches on Project Omega. While the aliens built their new fleet, humanity was preparing something that would end the war forever. Dr. Song, Nari called out to her supervisor, the quantum cascade generator is ready for testing. Dr. Mira Song looked at the massive device that filled an entire hangar. It looked like a giant ring made of metal and energy conduits with a hole in the center that seemed to bend light around it. Are you certain it will work? Dr. Song asked. As certain as I can be, Nari replied. According to our calculations, this device can create a controlled collapse in space-time itself. Anything within a light-year radius will simply cease to exist. Dr. Song nodded slowly. And the range? Unlimited, as long as we have quantum entanglement coordinates for the target location. While humanity prepared its ultimate weapon, War Commander Volthak was making his final preparations. Unlike Chancellor Krex, he had studied the battle reports carefully. He knew the humans had weapons that could appear and disappear, and that their star had been turned into a cannon. This time will be different, he told his assembled commanders. We will not attack their home system. Instead, we will destroy their colonies one by one, forcing them to come to us. It was a smart strategy, but it had one fatal flaw. Volthak still did not understand what humanity really was. He still thought of them as just another alien species with better technology. The attack began with the human colony of New Sol, a peaceful world with 3 million inhabitants. War Commander Volthak brought his entire fleet out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, ready to destroy everything. What he found instead was Admiral Minho Ryu waiting for him with the entire human defense fleet. War Commander Volthak, Admiral Ryu broadcast on all frequencies, "You have come to attack innocent people." That was a mistake, Volthak laughed. "You have maybe 100 ships, human. I have 15,000. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick." "I am afraid that will not be possible," Admiral Ryu replied calmly. "You see, humanity has decided that the Council's reign of terror ends today." That was when engineer Nari Choi activated Project Omega from her control station on Earth's moon. The quantum cascade generator created a hole in space itself, reaching across thousands of light years to the new Sol system. The effect was invisible at first, just a slight bending of starlight around War Commander Volthak's fleet. Then reality broke. The space around the alien fleet began to collapse inward, pulling ships toward a point that should not exist. Alien vessels that had survived 1,000 battles were crushed like paper as the laws of physics bent around them. "What is happening?" Volthak screamed as his flagship was pulled toward the growing hole in space. "Something that has never been done before in galactic history," Admiral Ryu answered. "Humanity has learned to weaponize spacetime itself." The collapse lasted only 30 seconds. When it ended, the entire alien fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not scattered. Simply erased from existence as if it had never been there at all. Across the galaxy, aliens who had been watching the battle through long-range sensors sat in stunned silence. The humans had just made 15,000 ships disappear with a weapon that defied everything they knew about science. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Krex fell to his knees as he received the reports. In 2 battles, humanity had destroyed over 25,000 council ships. The military might that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia was broken beyond repair. How? He whispered to himself.
How is this possible?
The answer was simple, though the Council would never understand it. Humanity had spent 15 years preparing for this war. While the aliens had grown comfortable and lazy in their power, humans had been innovating, learning, and building weapons that turned science fiction into reality. The Council had wanted payment from humanity. Now they were learning that some debts come with interest that can never be repaid. 3 months after the destruction of War Commander Volthak's fleet, the galaxy was a very different place. On hundreds of worlds, species that had been enslaved for thousands of years were finally free. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled through fear and force was nothing but a memory. But not everyone accepted the new reality. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Krex sat in what had once been his throne room, now stripped of its gold and jewels. Around him, the few alien leaders who still supported the old ways planned one final desperate act. The humans cannot be everywhere at once, Krex said to his remaining allies. If we strike at their homeworld directly, we can end this rebellion before it spreads further. War leader Vex, whose own fleet had been destroyed in the first battle, nodded eagerly. Yes, we take our remaining ships and attack Earth itself. Even if we die, we will show the galaxy that the Council still has teeth. It was the plan of desperate beings who could not accept that their time was over. They gathered every ship they could find, pirates, mercenaries, and the last loyal Council forces. Nearly 2,000 vessels assembled in secret, preparing for a suicide attack on humanity's homeworld. What they did not know was that Earth was the most defended place in the galaxy. Commander Unjang monitored the approaching fleet from the Sol Defense Grid Control Center. Hidden deep inside an asteroid between Mars and Jupiter, around Earth's solar system, thousands of automated defense platforms waited in silence, invisible to any sensor the aliens possessed. Admiral Lee, Commander Jang reported, "We have detected an incoming fleet of approximately 2,000 ships. They will reach Earth's orbit in 6 hours." Admiral Lee, now serving as the head of the new Galactic Defense Force, was not concerned. "Any identification of the ships?" "Mixed fleet, ma'am. Appears to be the last Council loyalists making a final attack." "I see. Well, let us give them a proper welcome." On Earth, President Hana Lim, who had replaced President Wu Han after the elections, watched the approaching fleet from the Situation Room. She had been a senator during the first battle. But now she led humanity in this new galactic age. "Admiral Lee," she said over the communication system, "are you certain our defenses can handle this attack?" "Absolutely, Madam President. Earth has more defensive firepower than the rest of the galaxy combined. These ships will not even reach our moon." The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a lightly defended world. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by weapons platforms that appeared out of nowhere. Chancellor Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the thousands of human defense satellites that had suddenly become visible around his fleet. Each one was larger than his ship and bristled with weapons he did not recognize. "Impossible," he whispered. "How many weapons do these humans have?" The answer came from Commander Jang over the communication system. "More than you can imagine, Chancellor. This is your only warning. Leave this system immediately or be destroyed." Krex's 6 eyes blazed with fury.
"Never. We are the Council."
"We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years, and now you do not," Commander Jang replied simply. The Sol Defense Grid activated all at once. Thousands of defense platforms opened fire with weapons that made the previous human attacks look gentle. Energy beams that could cut through planets struck the alien fleet, while missiles that could track targets across star systems hunted down fleeing ships. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, not a single alien ship remained intact. The last military force of the once mighty Galactic Council was nothing but debris floating in space. With the destruction of the final Council fleet, the old order was officially dead. But humanity did not seek to replace it with another empire built on fear. Captain Jinho Park, now promoted to admiral, stood in the center of what had once been the Council's assembly hall on Nexus Prime. The massive chamber had been rebuilt, with seats arranged in circles where every species had equal representation. "Representatives of the galaxy," Admiral Park announced to the thousands of beings gathered before him, "we are here today to build something that has never existed before, a truly free galactic community." The response was unlike anything the old Council chamber had ever heard. Instead of fearful silence, there was cheering from dozens of species. Former slaves sat next to their former masters, now equals under the new system. Dr. Mira Song, now serving as the head of the Galactic Intelligence Service, addressed the assembly. "For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by the idea that might makes right, that the strong should dominate the weak. Today we say that era is over forever. The new system was simple but revolutionary. Every species, no matter how large or small, had the same voice in galactic affairs. Decisions were made by vote, not by force, and the entire system was protected by the human military, which had proven itself capable of defending against any threat. Not everyone was happy with the changes. On some worlds, former Council loyalists still plotted and schemed. But they faced a problem they had never encountered before: populations that were no longer afraid. On the former slave world of Kepler 442b, millions of beings celebrated their first free election in 2,000 years. The planet's new government was led by beings who had once worked in Council labor camps. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Mining Collective became a democratic federation. The Kelton Agricultural Union formed trade partnerships with dozens of other species. Even some former Council worlds voted to join the new galactic community as equal members. Admiral Minho Ryu, now commanding the Galactic Defense Force's largest fleet, patrolled the space lanes that had once been controlled by Council warships. His mission was simple: protect the weak from the strong, and ensure that no species ever again had to bow to tyrants. Admiral Ryu, his communications officer, reported, "We are receiving a distress call from the Tau Ceti system. Pirates are attacking a civilian convoy. Set course for Tau Ceti," Admiral Ryu ordered. Maximum speed. This was the new reality. Where once the Council had used its military to conquer and enslave, humanity used its power to protect and defend. The strong no longer preyed on the weak because the strongest force in the galaxy would not allow it. In her office on Earth, President Hana Lim reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Trade was flourishing between species that had never been allowed to interact freely. Scientific research was advancing as brilliant minds from dozens of worlds worked together. Art and culture were spreading as beings shared their unique perspectives with others. "The payment is complete," she said to Admiral Lee, who was visiting Earth between patrol missions. "Ma'am?" Admiral Lee asked. "The Council demanded payment from humanity," President Lim explained. "They wanted metal, people, and planets. Instead, we gave them something else entirely." Admiral Lee smiled. "And what was that, Madam President?" "Justice, freedom, hope. We showed the galaxy that bullies can be defeated, that tyrants can be overthrown, and that a better future is possible." Looking out her window at the stars, President Lim continued. "The Council ruled through fear for 3,000 years. Now the galaxy is ruled by something they never understood: the idea that all beings deserve to be free." Admiral Lee nodded. "The payment they demanded was slavery. The payment they received was liberation. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings who had never dared to dream of freedom were now building new lives under the protection of the species they had once dismissed as primitive. Children who had been born into bondage were growing up free. Entire civilizations that had been crushed under Council rule were rebuilding themselves. The Galactic Council had wanted payment from humanity, and they had received it in full. But the currency had not been what they expected. Instead of tribute and submission, they had been paid in revolution and justice. And for the first time in 3 millennia, the galaxy was truly free. The age of the Council was over. The age of freedom had begun. And it all started because one species refused to bow to tyrants, chose to fight instead of surrender, and proved that sometimes the payment demanded by bullies is their own defeat. Humanity had delivered their reckoning, and the galaxy would never be the same.